The two amplifiers that we're going to use today for our recording are the Kalamazoo Model 1, and this is the cleaner of the two amplifiers. Generally speaking, it's a good idea when using two amplifiers to have them sound quite different from each other. One will tend to be cleaner in tone, another one will be more distorted. So my Kalamazoo Model 1 tube amplifier with a 10-inch speaker tends to have a more transparent sound. My other amplifier, I have the head is a Masco ME18, and this has a lot of distortion in it, and I like it. It's got a really nice sound. I'm going through, in this case, my 212 cabinet. Now that's pretty big. My rule of thumb before said that large amplifiers sound small. Yeah, but Masco amps are pretty distorted and are kind of don't necessarily fit that rule. You can put them through any speaker combination you want. And it happened to be in this room, and it was convenient for me. I do have other speaker cabinets. I have a speaker cabinet that has two 10-inch speakers, and I'm sure I can come up with something else. I've got another cabinet that I can unplug the power section to and just go from my Masco into a single 10-inch speaker. But I've recorded with this 212 before. Sounds great. So, two amplifiers. I got my Kalamazoo Model 1, and I've got my Masco ME18 through, in this case, my Megatone 212 cabinet. For microphone placement, I'm going to take my SM57. I'm going to find the edge of the speaker. You can feel the wood. It's obviously not a bad idea to look actually in the back of the cabinet to make sure that what you're feeling is the speaker. Then you're going to place the microphone about an inch away from the edge or the rim and about an inch away from the face. So an inch in and an inch away. And that'll be a good rule of thumb for miking. Let me do the same thing for my Kalamazoo, or with my Kalamazoo. I'm going to find the edge of the speaker. There it is, about right there, and about 1 inch away. Why so close? Well, the goal is that I don't want too much of the sound bleeding from my 212 cabinet into my microphone for my Kalamazoo, and vice versa. So I'm getting relatively good separation between the two cabinets, and really good separation is really not important in our case. So we have, in this case, what we'll call the Masco is through one channel. This is channel 1, and then we have the Kalamazoo going through channel 2. Now, on top of these two microphones, it's common for me in the studio to use an ambient microphone, and basically a microphone like our condenser microphone placed somewhere in the room to pick up the room sound. In other words, the sound of both these amplifiers together also bouncing the sound around the room. In this room, I haven't found the sound to be very good, so I'm not going to use a third microphone. But if you're in the studio and you have what we call a live room, in other words, it has wood walls or there's a wood floor, in other words, hard surfaces. Bathrooms are famous for having great ambient sound because of the hard surface of the ceramic tiles, for example. Hallways are very well known for this wood floor, hallway, long and narrow, and you place the microphone somewhere near the end of the hall or somewhere in the middle. Either way, we're looking for a reflected sound. Again, this room doesn't sound very good, so I'm not going to waste our time and put a third mic on there. And the idea is then you will mix those microphones together. So if you happen to like the sound more from the ME18, for example, then you'll use mostly that sound and either none at all or a little bit of the Kalamazoo to add a little bit of flavor. The fun part of our process of recording today is we're going to get a chance to listen to what each sounds like individually. What I'll do is I'll also create an MP3, not the whole song, but maybe just the opening part of the song where you're hearing the Kalamazoo only, you're hearing the Masco only, and then you'll hear them summed together. Kind of a neat thing. So if you're in a recording studio, what's great is you only have to play once. You're recording, but you got 3 input sources, one coming from your Kalamazoo, one from the Masco, and one reflecting off of the walls in the room. And you can use either one, or you can use a combination of those 3. This also is a great thing to do when you're recording an album where you want to have a little bit different sound from track to track. Even though you're using the same setup that you've used before, on one song you might use more of the Masco, one song you might use more of the Kalamazoo, one song you'll really go for that more ambient sound of recording and use more of the room mic. Now, since we're recording through 2 amplifiers at the same time, we need a way to split the signal from your harmonica mic into 2 amplifiers. You can use a simple splitter. In this case, this is an 1/8 inch female that goes to 2 cables, spreads across, and has a 1/4 inch on one side and a 1/4 inch on the other. So we're splitting the signal. Another way to go about it is to use an AB box. In this case, this AB box allows us to take the signal 1 input source and send out 2. Usually what you'll do is not record with any delay or reverb or any of your effects. You'll go ahead and do that after the fact. You can color that after the fact. With that said, I really like the sound of my delay, and I've recorded with it in quite a few situations, and I really like the sound of it. So if you're really enamored with your sound and you want to get that sound, you want to capture that sound in your recording, go ahead and record with your effects. But just be aware of that some sound engineers will not want it. If you're doing a session for somebody else, you might not be able to use your favorite effect. If you're doing it for yourself, hey, it's yourself, you get to choose what you want. So my favorite delay is the Dan Echo delay, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. So what's happening is I'm going from my microphone into my Dan Echo, out of my Dan Echo into either that splitter cable I showed you, or in this case, the AB box. We now need to dial in the sound of the amplifier. I've got my G harmonica, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on my Kalamazoo. And you want to turn it up to the point where the amp's cooking a little bit and giving you some good tone. Let's hear what this guy sounds like. I think that sounds pretty good. I'm going to pump it up just a little bit more for Bill. That sounds pretty good. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and turn to my Masco. I generally will put tone at 5. I don't have to have this too loud because the Masco sounds pretty good without having to turn that up quite a bit. Here we go. All right, that's just fine. And then the idea now is if you have both amplifiers on, and you have both amplifiers selected, now we get the killer sound from both amplifiers. All right, I think we're ready to record. So let me go ahead and move over to my Pro Tools system, and let's go ahead and set up our session for Bill Bussell.